It's become one of our favorite parts of the show. Each week, we enjoy some great entertainment from the famous cowboy poet Baxter Black. And today, we have the privilege of having the man here himself on the studio. Welcome, Baxter, to the show.
Great, Scott. Thank you, Kevin. What a pleasure to be here. I'm wearing my seatbelt, ladies and gentlemen. The excitement here this morning is just hard to contain, isn't it?
It is.
We have a crowd out in front of us here. We're at the big convention hall in Denver. Fight the crowd back. Fight them back. They've actually
we expect them to start clapping any moment now.
That's right. It's just like looking at those pictures of Egypt.
Well, hey, Baxter.
A lot of those people are armed. They're coming our way, Kevin.
that would be a problem. I have a question for you, Baxter. You know, last time we were together, I asked you where you got your material, and then a couple weeks later, I read an article about a question that a reporter asked you about the future of the livestock industry or the cattle business that sounded eerily familiar.
We were in Washington, D.C., and you had graciously let me tell you a story, which is what I do, and then you put me on the spot. You said, now that the cattle market's going up and the price of grain is going up, how would you suggest that a good cattleman position himself for the future?
A good question for a veterinarian, isn't it?
What a terrific question.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he had mistaken me for, a wore-out cattle buyer or maybe a feedlot operator. These are people who keep watching that movie, The Alamo, over and over again, thinking sooner or later Davy Crockett's going to win.
And he never does.
No, or like the growers. I like growers, but you got to worry about people who think 10% is a good death loss. So anyway, I wrote this column.
Well, and the other night, another quick question. The other night we showed your little clip again that you make, and I want to ask you how you make those clips down there in a minute, but showed that clip you made about being the cow disturber. And I'd rather be a cow disturber than a sheep flocker that you mentioned, but my wife told me this morning she had chased this cow into the barn. It was 9 degrees at home. She was starting to calve, and then she called me back 30 minutes later because cow was nervous and wasn't doing anything, so she was doing her job disturbing cows.
Well, I got the idea from a great old gentleman named Ole Coleman, and he said, made the point that we're really cow molesters, which I thought maybe was a bad choice of words. But when you stop and think what we do, if we're watching our heifers, they're contently out there trying to what is the verb?
Parturition, right?
Parturate.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Well, I was thinking while they were just carrying it, and so we go out, and every hour or two we go out and jog them a little or disturb them, walk around, shine a flashlight in their eyes. Leave us alone. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Or I was in the feedlot business, and here's your instructions. All right, boys, I want you to saddle up and ride into that first pen there. Make a big circle. Irritate all the cattle you can. Agitate them a lot so everyone has to get up and walk around. Those that are feeding, see if you can move them around so you can see their noses. And then ride out of that pen and go into the next one and molest them.
And I had another question. I saw you brought Cindy with you to the show, and nice that you and Cindy can have a balmy time here in Denver, Colorado. But there's some wives that had to stay home for a lot of the folks that are here today trying to break ice and check heifers. What would you say to that other silent partner that's at home?
Well, be sure and buy one of my books. No, they already have my book. So. The truth is, I'll speak for myself. I leave and I go on the road, and I'm gone for a week, and I've got a son there, and I had a daughter, and they do the chores. But when they aren't there, when they're at basketball or something, my wife, who is not a cow person and not a horse person, goes out and feeds whatever I've got in the corral and takes care of the neighbor's dog, and you just don't think about it.
You better keep a hold of her. She's a good one.
I'm letting her sleep in this morning, as it were. Ladies and gentlemen, it's actually 3 o'clock in the morning.
It is not.
It's odd that they would be shooting at this hour.
What'd you bring with you, Baxter?
Well, I brought several different poems I could refer to in case you led me into one of them.
Well, tell me what you think about consultants. I mean, there's a lot of consultants in our business.
Yes, there are. A lot of consultants.
Yeah.
I actually was a consultant at one time. Consultant basically means you're between jobs. Right?
That is true.
Yeah. So I have been, I'll tell you my history. I started out working for the Diamond A Cattle Company. worked for them all through vet school. Went to a feedlot in Thermal, California, worked there. They changed hands and let me go. So I went to the Simplot Company, and I worked there for 10 years in Idaho and loved it, and had personal problems, and her lawyer said I should leave town. So that was another. And then I took a job with the Burroughs Welcome and moved to Denver and worked for them 2 years, and they changed hands and became somebody else and let me go. So I have to tell people, I am not a cowboy poet on purpose. I really had a job. But during those times, I put consultant on my business card when I was looking for work. Being in between jobs ain't no picnic. In fact, it's downright insultant. So I printed some cards, put signs in the yard, and bingo, became a consultant. I solicited quality rest stops in search of the right clientele, passed out ballpoint pens to all of my friends, got an answer machine from Ma Bell. At last, an old-timer sought my advice. He brought in his balance sheet. I saw with a smile that his management style was outdated and obsolete. So I set out to solve all his problems. I spoke like a preacher possessed. He sat there amazed, his eyes sort of glazed. I could see he was truly impressed. He said not a word as I rambled on. For effect, I went over it twice. And when time had expired, he politely inquired, how much for this expert advice? I said, $50. I thought it was fair from his looks. I thought I could fake it. But he nodded his head and quietly said, well, son, I don't think I'll take it.
Well done, Baxter. And don't be sending us a bill for this. Thank you so much for coming to the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having and being a part of it.
If you'd like to see some of Baxter's famous skits, just log on to our website at cattleman2cattleman.org.